Hi, folks, and welcome to A More Civilized Age. I am Matt Wilkins, as you know, and I am joined by two special guests, two of the big billboard fundraisers here from our recent billboard fundraiser. And I'd like to welcome both Arturo and SJ. Guys, thank you so much for being on the channel. Thank you, first off, for donating. I know this is like the loser prize here, trying to want to be on my show, but I just wanted to say thank you for especially some of the big donors like yourselves, and you guys obviously are passionate about the expanded universe. And when Brian was doing the fundraiser, I said these are the people that I want to talk to because they love the expanded universe as much, if not more, than myself. So thank you for making the time to join me tonight. I really appreciate that.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and just want to say I'm very grateful to be on the show. I think SJ, for donating, I think it's great. It's so good for the movement, and I really appreciate your donation. And Matt, I'm so grateful for all the great work you're doing for the Expanded Universe movement. I'm excited to watch your show, and you are sort of a celebrity in our circle. So thanks for having me here. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's funny because the first time I think ever someone noticed me from my channel, I was at I think it was at Gen Con, and I was walking by, and a guy stopped me and said, "Are you Matt Wilkins?" And I was like, that was weird. I said, "Yeah, did we play a game this week?" I was like, "I don't recognize this dude." I said, "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm a big fan of your channel." And I was thinking, well, you two? And he goes, "Can I take a picture?" I said, of me? He said, "Yeah, of us together." I said, "Sure, if I can take a picture with you." And so I took a picture with him, and I showed my wife. I said, "Look, see, he watches my channel." And my wife's like, "Why?" So it's really kind to hear that. And I of course, I'm a big fan of the expanded universe. And hey, we're all winning right now, getting our message to Lucasfilm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. We have some great questions. And the questions today, folks, come from my two guests. I do have a little bonus question I'd like to ask at the end, but they came up with some really awesome questions. I can't wait to answer them. And the first one comes from Arturo. And so Arturo, I'm going to let you answer this one first. Let's say the billboard is successful. What do Legends need to produce new story-wise that would make us satisfied? What new stories would satisfy us? What do we want to hear about? What do we want to read about? So Arturo, what would you like to read about from Legends? What would you like to see come out? News stories.
Right. So I'll be honest with you, and I hope this is okay on the show. I do read a little bit of the new canon stuff, particularly the stuff that happens before the Return of the Jedi kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I try to use that to sort of fill in the blanks, right? So that's sort of already there in some ways, and I think it's kind of great to have that. I definitely would love to see stories in the expanded universe that happen after the Return of the Jedi. But I think I won't be satisfied until I get stuff that happens after Crucible specifically. So stuff that happens after the fate of the Jedi, with what happens with Janna, Solo, and with the big three, and afterwards, right? So a continuation of the whole saga, right? And then what happens next? I feel like, because truth be told, it will be hard for them to sort of come up with a sort of big significant story. So from before that time, because there's a lot already filled in. So I imagine they could sort of produce stories about small characters that happens in between, kind of a little bit similar to the comic book that issue 108, right? I was very happy to see that come out. I think it was great. I would love to see more of those comic books, and yet I'm not satiated, right? I feel like there's not enough there to make me feel like, yes, this is what we're fighting for. This is what we're kind of hoping for.
I am in the same boat as you. I am looking forward to. I would look forward for more stuff. I wanted them to bridge that gap between Crucible and the Legacy comic books by Dark Horse, where it takes place in the future. And I'd like to see a gap bridge, like what happened, maybe the fates of the big three, Luke, Han, and Leia, and then moving on to Ben Skywalker, his offspring, who eventually begat Cole Skywalker, which starts connecting the series, to Legacy. And for me, that would also be the same thing I would love to see, because now that when they brought it the Legacy comic book, I was like, okay, well, now we have a goal, a pathway. Can they make these two fit? Because usually the future just was, the next book. They never did anything from Legacy that was like, okay, here's where we have to end, and here's where we are right now. We have to have these two storylines meet. And I was interested to see how they were going to do that. For instance, from Legacy comic book, the Gray Jedi. Well, how did they get started? The Fell Empire. Well, we kind of know how that got started, but let's see how it got started. And so there's a lot of connections that I was looking forward to seeing from that going forward. And according to Troy Denning, they didn't know how they were going to do it, but they knew eventually they would be leading that way. They would eventually have to lead that way over time. And so I agree with you. The same thing. I would want to see that story. That's something I would really, I think everyone would want to see Sword of the Jedi. Everyone would want to see that. We'd want to see what happens. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I actually got to talk to Troy Denning a few years back. And I asked him, I said, what did you have in mind going forward? And his idea was something about the Anzadi, the snot vampires, and about how they were trying to do a takeover of the galaxy. And he thought they were just a cool villain to have in the Star Wars universe that was never really fully utilized in the expanded universe, which he was correct. And so he had an idea of a short trilogy. This wasn't going to be an epic story, but it was going to be a short trilogy of an Anzadi threat. And I was like, that's really cool too. Because anytime they can think outside the realm of dark Jedi, or Sith, is good in my book, something different. And of course, they had the Lost Tribe of the Sith. Of course, they had Abeloth's story still out there. They had to find the dagger. I can't remember what the name of the dagger is now, but they had to find the dagger. So there's a lot of other story plots that I would like to see picked up and completed, of course, as well. But that ties into anything after Crucible. So
Solo, it would be great to see Anya Solo's stories. I think she was a great character, and see that story and see where she ends up would be excellent.
Exactly. Okay, SJ, what would you like to see from New Legends?
For Ania, however you say it, that was actually more so going to be my answer. But quickly on the Anzadi, it would be cool if they could sort of retroactively kind of tie that into Crosscurrent and Riptide, because there was I think it was just in the first one where an Anzadi showed up. Anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I totally forgot about that.
He was tailing. I don't think he was tailing Jaden Core specifically. He was tailing anyway. But yes, that for my answer for continuation, it would be actually more so post Legacy, either continuing Anya's story and maybe even potentially later. And I almost wonder if that would possibly be even more realistic, because Disney at this point would see that as removed enough from the era they're in, where they could be like, okay, you can play in that playground however you want. And honestly, I don't know that I want to see the final swan song of Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, all those people. I almost want it to be a situation of like, Winnie the Pooh, the boy and his friend will always be playing, just keep that happy image of them. And, Luke shows up later, he's a Force Ghost, fine, you get what happened. But yeah, I think continuing on after Legacy would actually be my pick, because then actually you could probably even retroactively backfill some things to still connect it to the Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi kind of era, where you talk about how the Fell Empire came to be or whatnot, or somebody's going through historical records and you see
through flashbacks,
right? So things kind of like that, or people even just talking about it in hindsight.
You also have go ahead.
You're still pushing forward, into the future. And I actually thought the entire Legacy era had fantastic designs, characters. I would want to see more of that.
That's true. It would be a different world. And you also have the unsolved mystery of the droid and his connection to Han Solo. I can't remember the droid's name right now, but that was a drop storyline because, of course, Lucasfilm got bought out and Dark Horse didn't have time to finish it. And I still to this day have not heard the authors reveal what they had in mind.
Mhm.
Now that I think about it, no one said what that. I mean, you think it's a dead story plot, so go ahead and tell us. But I don't know if anyone's asked them. That's something for me to look into now. I'd like to know some of those. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the droid's name.
Yeah.
But he has that link to Han Solo, and there's some secret he has, and that was going to be revealed later on in the series. Of course, it ended too soon. It ended very abruptly, but that's not its fault.
Which series was it in? The Legacy.
The second Legacy
Okay.
series.
Yeah.
After Legacy War came out. Sorry, I hate that name for a title.
It never bugged me. I figured that was just their way of flagging, hey, we're ending it. So I was like, okay.
I hated it. Anyway, okay, so good question there. Now I'm going to switch to an SJ question here. Now, and I love this because it kind of goes hand in hand. What if, besides news stories, like we don't get news stories, what other EU content would we like to see? Like, for instance, you said guides, toys, costumes, miscellaneous stuff, kitchenware. What's something that you would love to see? So, SJ, you go ahead and answer this one first.
I love like pen and paper RPGs. I literally just came from helping my RPG group fill out character sheets for a new system we're going to try to run, and just figuring all that stuff out, and just like the RPG source books, like all of the Fantasy Flight stuff. I don't know if you've had a chance, either of you, to play the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system yet, but I've been running a campaign for over 2 years now, and it's great. I love it, and it really just kind of made me sad when they started switching over, and it's like, oh, and now we're showing like Jen Erso and Ezra Bridger or whatever. It's like, okay, but I think if they'd really been able to stick in that pocket with the Legends material, actually coming out with more era source books for the New Jedi Order era, the Legacy era, Knights of the Old Republic, and coming out with just more world building for those areas, because I just love how the galaxy expanded, with Weston Games and everything. It just felt more fleshed out and real, because anywhere you go in the corner of the galaxy, it has a history now. But
and you're not the only one who felt that way, because Weston Game. Now, I had never played Weston Games, Wizards of the Coast, or Fantasy Flight. I'm glad you like Fantasy Flight. I read to those source books up until the Force and Destiny. When they introduced Force and Destiny, they said, okay, guys, going forward, this is Legends, this is canon. And they hadn't done any new canon yet, but they said they were about to switch over. And I said, okay, bye-bye. And I stopped right there. So I have the Force and Destiny source book in the first, adventure box. And that's it, because after that, they started going into new canon. And I think they still mention some old canon stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not much for the mix. I'm just going to stop right there. But I agree with you, because some of the ideas they had, and I'm kind of looking over my shoulder here to see if I can remember which one it is. It's not Rebellion. It has to be the Edge of the Empire.
Edge of the Empire.
Maybe Far Horizons. Is that the one? Far Horizon. Is that the one where it talks about exploring new planets and settlers on new planets?
Yeah, I think so.
And how you're colonizing it. And I never thought about that. And they talk about how the guy was watching the last supply ship leave, and they were on their own. What would it be like in 1 year when that ship came back for more supplies? Would they have a successful society, or would they tear themselves apart? And as I'm reading that, I'm going, holy cow, I've never that's a different aspect of the expanded universe that Weston Games never touched. And Weston Games just broke your mind about how awesome and how big this world was, and how many possibilities there were. And honestly, when Wizards of the Coast came out, which everyone generally pans, I mean, these people should have been on top of their game with the role-playing stuff, and they just did not deliver role-playing game-wise for Star Wars. They didn't really expand the universe that much. But the creativity that Fantasy Flight has, and that's just they had a few other things that were really good too, but I was like, wow, that is just amazing that Weston Games never thought of that. And Fantasy Flight did a lot of that kind of stuff, looking at the universe through different viewpoints, and I love that. Now, I wish I could play RPGs. My dungeon master, growing up in college, they played it all. They played Western game stuff all the time, and he had a fraction of the books I had. When he saw my collection, he went, "Matt, this is a complete collection." I was like, "Yeah." He went, "Oh my!" And he was just like tripping over. He's like, "I always wanted this book. I always wanted to do this adventure." And back in the day, I didn't do RPG. I was in the video games. Like, I'm not doing RPG. No way, dude. And I regretted it. Well, when he moved back, I said, you know what? We should start our own RPGs. I'm totally for that. I can just give me the books. I'll come up with adventures. That's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And then he moved away. And if he's watching, he moved away for a woman. Thanks, Benjamin.
Hey,
Appreciate that.
I'll run a game for you. If you ever want me to run a game for you, I'll do it.
Oh man, that would be awesome, because my first original board game group. Anyone who knows me, I'm big into board games. My first board game group all went. Look at you, Arturo. You popular, man. But my first
Big
board
family.
game group, my first board game group all went RPG. And that's what they do. They meet on Friday nights, and sometimes they meet online, of course, and they do their RPG group. And they only play board games with me on Christmas, because they come down to see their families, and they'll give poor old Matt a board game night like the old days. But they're talking about their RPG adventures. I'm going, oh, okay.
I love board games too, but RPGs, I love them.
Yeah, my nephews just got their first taste of RPGs, and they're telling me how much better they are than my board games.
Yeah,
So
I love both. Why can't you have both? Anyway.
Oh, well, I mean, oh no, I am totally ready to start one day, and maybe when the girls get older, I'll have more free time. But yeah, I definitely can see the appeal of them. I actually got to play one with Brian Borg one time, my first RPG ever. It wasn't a Star Wars one, but it was super fun to do. I enjoyed it.
But it's interesting, because I guess we're kind of connected to that connection that RPGs have to Star Wars. It seems like, the whole fandom of Dragonlance, for example, I think it's sort of almost predates Star Wars, and at that time had that big following, and that was the expanded universe for the 80s, I guess, right? And I think Troy Denning also came out from that, so those authors that were sort of writing books for, so it's kind of interesting that there's a strong connection between the two.
Yeah, Pablo Hidalgo got his start with West End Games, and now he's big head honcho at the company. He's probably the biggest success story there. And of course, Troy Denning is, because he wrote stuff for the West End Games world, and then eventually cut his teeth. And he's one of my favorite authors now because of it. So yeah, definitely. And West End Games held the flame, the embers of the expanded universe when the series was dead and gone. It was only RPGs was the only new material you were getting back then. And it's weird, but only role-playing guys they enjoyed Star Wars. It fed their love of Star Wars back when a lot of us weren't. I say the Dark Ages. It is called the Dark Ages because no one was thinking about Star Wars back then. I wasn't. I was a big fan of the movies, but when it moved on, there were other things to enjoy. You knew Star Wars, but it wasn't as big. But if you were in the RPG world, it was still big because, and West End Games, to give them credit, they are still the most creative minds that were put into the books and stuff that they have here is just the ideas and concepts that they could think about. And SJ, you said this earlier. I'm kind of repeating what you said here, but it was just amazing because it was things I'd never thought about before, angles I'd never seen the universe before, and they just widened this universe that we just got a taste of from the movies. And actually, George Lucas was a huge fan of the West End Games material and actually ordered copies of all of it and gave it to Timothy Zahn. Said, here, use this, utilize this. This is good stuff. So George Lucas was eating it up back in the day. In fact, on the Clone Wars DVD, Dave Filoni's Clone Wars DVD, when they were talking about a Gundart, he went, what does a Gundart look like? And George pulled West End Games material. He's like, this is a Gundart. This is what the Gundart's going to look. This is Gundarts. I mean, so he loves the West End Games material. George Lucas did. For me, SJ, I'm going to say obviously board games. I would like to see board game versions of the expanded universe. I want to be specific here. I would like to see a Jedi Academy where you're trying to build up your Jedi and force powers and talent and skill and testing it out on missions and stuff. And so it's like a Jedi Academy, where Luke's really the guy teaching you and you're picking a Jedi and moving him up there. Of course, I want to fight Vong. I want a battle game fighting Vong. I think that'd be awesome from New Jedi Order. So I can think of in my head a couple of board games that I would love to see, or expanded universe stories converted into board games. I think that'd be totally awesome. So it's almost in the same vein of your RPG, but board games would be something I'd like to see. Arturo, what is something that you would like to see, not new stories from Legends, that's from the expanded universe?
So I'd like to see new movies, like the books and novels we have. I would like to see those made into movies. I would love to see, Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi, the whole Vong were like on
Oh
a
my
big
gosh.
screen. It would be amazing. So I would love to see those. I think that would be pretty sick.
Whenever I picture the New Jedi Order, something like that, I can see some of those scenes in my head that are just playing through. I'm like, oh man, I can already see how it would look. Borst Fila holding the thermal detonator. Says, well, I guess you're the best I'm going to get. And then I see an outside shot of the tower as we're doing a slight 360 around it, just running around it, and then the whole tower explodes. I can see that in my head playing out. That's not how the book wrote it, but that's how Matt's mind. I'm eating popcorn while I'm watching this too. I love that
And
idea.
I know that there is those fan-made movies, right? That
Right.
I appreciate them. I think they're doing a great job. And they're pretty big budget for what they have, right? I mean, they're pretty
Right.
elaborate sometimes, but again, I mean, obviously, it would be neat to see sort of the full thing, right? The full $1 million kind of movie showing the stories that we love, of course, right? And again, I'll be honest, I did see some of the new movies, and there's some snippets from those new movies even that I kind of feel like that almost reflects what we have, but not quite, right? It's sort of it loses it, right? So
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Well.
and I guess one other thing that I would love to see, rewritten novels of other sort of books. No, novels that write out some of the comic books or computer games, right? I think some of those things that haven't been written out into novel form, I always sort of hope that we would get that in a kind of a biblical kind of a written out fashion, right?
I like
I
the
don't
way you think.
No, but yeah.
It's technically not new stories, SJ. Technically not new stories. He just wants a repetition of the old. I like that.
Novelization of TIE Fighter, X-Wing, something like that.
Or like the comic book, you want the novel version of Dark Empire or something.
There you go.
Be,
Excellent. That would be sick, yeah. And I would actually like, and also, okay, hey, one more. I would love to see X-Wing novels, for example, in hardcover version. I just want those in hardcover.
Yes. I passed it up years ago and I shouldn't have. They used to make library-bound copies of everything. And I saw some library-bound copies of X-Wing, Rogue Squadron, a long time. It was Michael Stackpole's first 4. But they were selling for so much back in the day, like $25 a pop, and the guy wanted $100 for the whole set. I was like, I'm not paying $100 for 4 books. I should have, because those were library bound, and you're not going to find those again. So it was actually a deal he was giving away. But I was just sticker shock. I said, $100 for 4 books I already have. I was hoping, and everyone was hoping, that the Science Fiction Book Club would make an omnibus, but for some reason they never did. I even emailed him and said, would you please, you keep taking all these paperbacks, put them into hardback trilogies and omnibuses. They did it for Karen Travis's Clone Wars. Can you please do it for X-Wing Rogue Squadron? And I don't know. They just never did. They thanked me for my suggestion and wished me on.
Yeah, that Kevin Anderson's trilogy and the hardcover from the Science Fiction Book Club is one of my favorite, books that I have on my shelf. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
For Jedi
awesome.
Academy.
Right.
Yeah.
Jedi Academy.
Awesome. All right, so the next question comes from Arturo, and he doesn't have an answer for it. He wants us to answer. And this is a great question here. It says, KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. What's so interesting about it? Now, Arturo doesn't know that I agree with him in a way. I do like the comic book, as you guys know. I didn't play the video game. I played it way too late. It seems like an out-of-date video game for me, but I am in the minority on thinking that, by the way. I am well aware of that. And I know that Knights of the Republic has had a huge impact with Expanded Universe fans. I am not going to deny that at all. It's just that I was not big into. It was weird. I've never been big into Star Wars video games, ever, and I don't know why. Because I love video games. I love Star Wars, but I rarely played Star Wars video games. And KOTOR was one that I just said, not for me. But all my friends were like, oh my gosh, you're the Star Wars guy. You should love this game. I was like, I'm okay. So for me, and you had mentioned this earlier, but it takes place so many years in the past, and you were kind of saying, where's the love for that? Because there is a lot of love. We both understand that, right, Arturo? We both know, we both acknowledge there's a lot of love for it, but where does it come from? Does it come from just the game? Does it come from the story they built? Does it come from the comic books? Because I'll be honest, John Jackson Miller's comic books are really good.
He did like a big fandom of the Knights of the Old Republic, right? I mean, they're
right,
and I kind of feel like I'm observing that, but I feel like I'm not part of it just because I kind of I'm not. I should read the books. I admit I haven't read the books yet, but I mean, I think my question is to sort of to see how I can kind of get into it, right? How can you guys?
And one of the things I'll talk about with Knight Errant, which was his comic book and his book too. John Jackson Miller really tried to build up the world in KOTOR, and I said this in my review. I like the idea of the storyline. Unfortunately, his character was so boring to read. I didn't care about her, but I cared about what was going on, and it was interesting. It just wasn't not from her angle. It wasn't interesting at all. That the Sith and the Jedi have they have a temporary truce, and it's kind of tensions are low or tensions are high at the border right now, and the world could explode into more war again. I like that idea, but again, oh gosh, I've even forgot her name. What is her name?
Kara Holt.
Kara Holt. Yeah, I did not find her interesting at all. At all. I found that it's so weird, but I found the storyline interesting. I just wish they would talk about a different character because she was boring to me.
I just kept on waiting for some kind of shift that would make it so it's like, oh, she's suddenly so much more dynamic now.
Yeah. And it's weird because, like I said, it's like when I'm interested in your world, but your main character is boring to me. Who else had that issue? And he got rid of it immediately. Alston. Aaron Alston in Race Squadron. His main guy in the first book, Kale, was basically your run-of-the-board X-Wing pilot, not really that interesting. And then he switched people because all his side characters were more interesting. And so he made the adjustments there and made the series better. But it seems like, man, I mean, John Jackson Miller really wanted us to love Kara Holt. It's obviously he loved her too, but I just wasn't feeling it. So it seems like what's and you're also asking, Arturo, what is something that can get you interested in KOTOR, correct? Knights of the Old Republic. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So
that's correct. Yeah, I understand that Raven is a big character that a lot of people sort of are rooting for. I understand that we do have a action figure, so he's sort of somebody that I'm interested in. I think there was a book that if I would start that series, I would start with that book.
Actually,
what do you guys think?
Yeah, Deceived is really good. Out of the 4 Old Republic books they came out with, I think Deceived is the best. And that's my opinion. I really enjoyed that one. Okay. Fatal Alliance is okay. Revan was okay. Which one did I thought was the least favorite? Annihilation. I thought was I think it was Annihilation. I was like, either Annihilation or Fatal Alliance. I get those two storylines mixed up, but one of them was like, I can take it or leave it. But Deceived, I really enjoyed. So, SJ is here to defend the Old Republic, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be worried. We're not going to be bashing the Old Republic. So, SJ, first off, I guess you played the video games, correct?
Yes, and I love them.
So, go ahead. Talk about it.
So, just I guess as the Old Republic as an era in its entirety, you don't have to love it. And I'm not offended if you don't. But to me, as I think I said before, I just love when something can expand a world and just give me just that lore just to sink my teeth into. And just, I think, to me, what's so brilliant about the entire Old Republic era is that, yeah, I get how some people are like, doesn't even matter. It's not connected to the Skywalkers at all. But to me, just the the weight it gives to the story that Lucas started and kicked everything off. I don't know, just you see the first Sith Lords who used the Darth title, and it's like that just felt right. I wanted to see that. And you see the things like you find out about the Rakatan Infinite Empire, and it's like, yeah, that just adds something to this world where it's like, okay, yeah, there was this ancient warmongering race that were just taking over everything, and eventually it was the Jedi who had to rise up and push back, and like this, I don't know, just
the overall idea, the error that they were talking about, I do agree with you, was interesting. So now, if you didn't play the video game, which obviously I don't, and Arturo doesn't, what material, comic books, books, what would you suggest for someone from a reader's point of view to get interested in the Old Republic?
I don't know if it would work for everybody, but for me personally, the John Jackson Miller Knights of the Old Republic comic line,
I agree.
I love it. The way it ties into the Tales of the Jedi even, and then the KOTOR games, and you're getting all this combining lore that just builds up, and just adds.
Every character in that comic book series is fantastic.
Yeah,
every character is fantastic.
When Imperial father figure takes off, I'm like, but no, I want more of you. It's like I feel like you have more to bring to this anyway. But yeah, I think that's the sign of like.
So what is the comic book series called? What is the comic book series called again?
It's called Knights of the Republic. It was a comic book series by Dark Horse. It is phenomenal. The characters are interesting. The storylines are interesting. The storyline built. That's another one that ended in war. What did you think about Knights of the Old Republic War? I'm sorry, War.
It was.
A lot of people didn't like it. That loved Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I thought it was unnecessary, but I got to spend more time with those characters, so I was okay with it.
It's bittersweet, isn't it? But Zane Carrick isn't who he used to be. It's almost like these. They say what?
He's become a very different person, and that's understandable.
And I agree with you on that, because they can't always be the same. They have to have an arc. They have to grow as a character. And you're upset because you missed that part. There's a gap in between the storyline, and now you feel like Han waking out of carbonite and going, wait, a Jedi? Like, wait a minute, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, but
it's almost like they missed the payoff, and now you flash forwarded to a storyline. You're like, wait, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, I can see that argument, but
it's still good to see the characters. I agree. Right. I thought the title was stupid, but I was still okay with it. But Knights of the Republic, there you go. I agree with him. That comic book series was a solid way to get your interest in the Old Republic. And out of the Old Republic books, I like Deceived. That's just me. What was your favorite Old Republic novel, SJ? Did you read the novels?
Yeah.
Do you recall which one was your favorite?
I think I would agree. Probably Deceived was the strongest, just because I'm a sucker for Darth Malgus. I think he was.
It was a beautiful story.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. Okay,
beautiful from a certain point of view.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Okay, so SJ's question comes next, and this is, I love this question. A shocking moment like Luke, I am your father, that was in the expanded universe for you. SJ, we'll let you go first. Answer that question. What was a shocking moment for you?
Well,
a jaw dropper.
First off, the line is "No, I am your father."
No, I am your father. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But broken record.
How dare you correct me on my show?
Broken record time. I got to go back to that Knights of the Old Republic comic, and considering Arturo hasn't read it, I'm not going to spoil it. But just the end of issue 1, when I got to the end of issue, I went in completely blind, and when I got to the end of issue 1, I felt slapped in the face. I felt punched in the gut.
they and that was the big hook, and I'm glad you didn't spoil that for Arturo. And at the end of the first comic book, it goes in the 180 direction that you never saw coming, and all of a sudden and exactly as SJ said, you're like, wait, what? And then you're like, well, what happens now? I don't wait. What? This isn't your run of the mill story. And John Jackson.
I almost want you guys to spoil it. Like I don't know.
John Jackson.
Blind.
We do want you to enjoy this. I'm going to side with SJ on this. But the thing is, though, it's a great storyline to hook you in on the very first comic book, and to say, okay, I've got to see where this goes. And that storyline doesn't wrap for a good time, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, meaning they don't drag it on too long. Yeah. I felt the timing, and that's another thing that Legacy Legacy drug a little bit. The comic book did. It drug out the storyline. It stretched it out, and I didn't like that. And that's the problem with a lot of ongoing comic books. They stretch out a storyline as long as they think they can, but they didn't do that with Knights of the Old Republic, and it's fantastic some of the stuff they did there. So that is a great pick for that.
And I heard you guys say Seed is the title of the sort of story, or the sort of story arc within the Knights of the Old Republic comic book.
Say what again?
You remember the title of the sort of subtitle? You know, like you have.
Oh gosh,
I don't remember right now.
What was the subtitle?
You know, like you have the story arc, the 6th issue kind of.
Commencement, I want to say.
Commencement. Okay, I don't remember. I don't remember the story.
I appreciate it.
All right, so, man, there are so many shocking moments for me, and I'm trying to think I want to go with my first one. I mean, there were a lot, and I'm trying to remember which one came first. I think this one came first. No. You know what? I know what it's going to be. Never mind. I know, because I was like, what? It was Darksaber, and that they killed off. Has anyone have we all read Darksaber?
I'm familiar with it, but
okay, all right. Well, they kill off
Kevin Anderson book. The Kevin. Yeah.
And they took a character from the movies who had a small role, and Kevin J. Anderson killed him off. Now, when that happened, he got so much hate. How dare he? It was, you do not touch the movie people. Even if they were a side character, they always live. They're like Han, Luke, and Leia. And he went, no, you know what'd be great? If right as the Republic's coming to save him, I kill this sucker off. And to be honest, the whole time reading the book, I knew he was going to be rescued. You knew it because you'd seen that Bantam had done this several times. Someone gets kidnapped, they're getting threatened to death, but at the very last moment, here comes the rescue. You know, it always happens. So the whole time I'm reading, I'm like, okay, when's the rescue going to come? And as he gets shot and his sight is dying, he looks out the window and sees the New Republic ships coming to save him. And I was going, wait, I remember I dropped the book. I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to go back and read that page again because I thought, wait a minute, did it just nick him in the eye, or did I? He's not dead, is he? And the whole time I was reading it, even though it's obvious he dies at the end of the chapter, I'm still waiting for confirmation because I was like, I still couldn't, my brain wasn't registering it. And I was like, did that just happen? Let me check that again. But that was a jaw-dropping moment for me.
And the person who did it.
And the person who did it. But the thing is, though, you did not see that type of thing happen in a Bantam book. And so it was like New Year Order, heck, it was every book. But the thing was, back then, you just never saw that. You never thought it would happen because it was a movie character. And you thought, yeah, that person's going to be safe. And then you're like, holy cow, what just happened? I asked him about that, and he said, yeah, I just felt it was the right thing to do. And he had to get the okay from Lucasfilm to do that. And he did. And he got a lot of hate over that. But I was like, wow, it shocked me. So Arturo, what is a shocking moment for you in the expanded universe?
Yeah, so I have difficulty sort of remembering a shocking moment. I think, for me, even that moment where we find out that Vader is Luke's father. I mean, I think we all sort of know that at that point already, right? I mean, just because it's sort of like, I mean, hey, and maybe it's because I when I was small, I'll tell you, like I grew up in Poland and I had a lot of the figures, and I was playing with the figures like years before I saw the movie, right? So it's sort of like, it's something that in the background you sort of read about, you know about without sort of reading seeing the movies. So when I saw it, I kind of like, I think it wasn't as shocking or as surprising as it was epic. It was so epic, right, to sort of see that moment. And the two situations, I have difficulty picking one, but I really like, for some reason, the Legacy of the Force series. I think it's a very neat, and I know it's a trilogy, right? I mean, some ways it's a
Mm-hmm.
retelling of this of that, but I think the way they're retelling it and the way we are feeling close to the characters already, and the way that it's an important part of the expanded universe, I love it. I think it's a great culmination to a lot of those characters' lives, and I think they did it good. They did it well. So the two shocking moments are the two big important deaths in the book three and in the book nine, right? I mean, I think those two deaths are pretty epic for me, and I love it, and I would love those moments to be sort of on the big screen at some point.
Yeah, I'd say those were big shocking moments for everyone, and not the happiest moments for some people either.
Yeah, that was one I had to reread when reading Sacrifice. When I got to that point, it was I had to put it down. I had hold
You had to
on.
step away. Did
Hmm.
I
did you
think I
hear
had
that?
tears in my eyes as well. I did have
Yeah.
tears.
Did you hear the story how that happened? They were sitting there trying to figure out why wouldn't Luke shut down Jason? Why wouldn't he do it? Because it's obvious he can. We've built that. So what can we do? And no story made sense because they said, well, Luke maybe got on a side mission. No, nothing's more important than Jason right now. And
Yeah.
and then someone goes, well, if we have Jason kill Mara Jade, then Luke won't go after him for fear of going to the dark side. And he said the whole room got quiet. He will not say who said it because they don't want that person getting attacked. They know that person
Right.
the fans would ask for that guy's head on a platter, or girl, could have been a
Yeah.
girl. But he said the
Ari
room
Salvatore
went,
will tell you that.
yeah, he said, yeah. And that's why. Actually, that's exactly the reason why, because they didn't want an R.A. Salvatore story. If you don't know, he killed Chewbacca, but they were going to kill Chewbacca, whoever wrote the story. And because it was Salvatore, he got a lot of hate over that. And that's how he actually got to write episode 2, the novel, because all the authors said, hey, you really need to give Bob a break here and give him this novel because he's gotten a lot of hate over New Order. And so they didn't, but they said, he said the room went silent because they knew they had to do that. That was the only storyline that made sense. And people can argue about it all day long, say, no, okay, you can't present a better story. And Mr. Denning told me, he said, we just could not find another way around it. And so killing off and that was a bold move if you think about it, because that person was just as big, if not bigger than Chewbacca. That's kind of wild to say. A main movie character was equal in popularity, and I would totally agree with this. And arguably, honestly, it's probably the most popular EU character ever. And to give that person the axe is a bold move, but I applaud it. I applaud it. I get asked the question all the time. Well, Matt, what if they killed off Kip Duran, who was my favorite? Yeah, well, then let it be. If it's written in the sky, then they got to kill that character. I'm fine with it. But
If it serves the story,
it
the lore, the
serves the
galaxy.
storyline, and I think it did. I think it did.
Yep.
So,
And I thought they did some actually really pivotal things with that, because they didn't just do it and then just be like, okay, we're moving on. No, that the ripple effects went on, and they dealt with that in ways that made sense, it seemed like.
even in Fate of the Jedi, which has a beautiful story.
Is he frozen for just me?
I think so. I think Matt froze for a second.
Okay.
Coming back. Here I am. Am I back?
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. But they're in the pool of whatever, and oh, man, Jason is just a fan. Anyway, going off topic there, but it's just I like how he goes. He has no regrets, and I was like, yes, yes.
Mhm.
And it was like okay, maybe he's going to apologize to the fans. No, he's not. No, there's no apologies. I asked Sue Rastoni, who was in charge of Del Rey for a while, and I asked her. She was going to write a story for the a more civilized age, the third Sequart novel, which is kind of how I got the name for this show. And she was asking for suggestions, and I wrote her and said, it should say killing Chewbacca, and then underscore no regrets, and talk about your decision to kill Chewbacca and why it was the right decision. And she loved the idea, but I don't know if fans want. I said, I want to see it, and you should say killing Chewbacca, no regrets, and just stand by your guns, because I know they got a lot of hate for killing Chewbacca, and I thought that would have been a nice story to tell, especially from her point of view. But unfortunately, she got too busy and couldn't make it. But that's the most interesting story to me still today. I want to get her to tell me that story. But anyway, great questions, guys. I have a bonus question here for each one of you. It's a fun little question here. Just recently, here in the States, we celebrated Halloween, where you get to dress up. If we could offer you a professional costume of anything Star Wars, a professional grade, I mean, it looks like it's straight from the movies, or maybe it's a professional grade, character from the expanded universe that you would get a costume for, what type of costume would it be? I will go first to give you guys some time to think about it, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. And I'm going to go, if it was just the movies, because I know someone's going to ask me if it was just the movies. It's definitely going to be a Stormtrooper armor, just plain Jane Stormtrooper armor. I just love it. I love it. I love the original Stormtrooper. My brother is a big Snowtrooper fan. He always thought Snowtroopers were cool and underutilized, and he would pick a Snowtrooper. And I have a buddy of mine who was going to join the 501st, and he was going to make a Scout Trooper costume. I said, if you ever complete that, he never got around to doing the costume. I said, if you ever do that, you can come on my show. And I was going to have a Scout Trooper hunt me and Yub-Nub in the woods as we were reviewing books. That was all planned out. I said, if you finish it, but he never got around to it. But I think I'd go for original Stormtrooper armor. And if it had to be an expanded universe costume, I know Matthew from the Geeks Attic would have the same answer as me, and it would be a Waru costume. A big gelatinous scaly cube. Awesome. Okay, so I think hopefully I've given you guys enough time to think about it. Who wants to go first? What kind of Star Wars professionally made costume would you want, and what would it be?
LJ?
I think I gotta go Old Republic again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Revan in his full Sith get up is great, but I actually might want to go, like a Rakatan admiral or something. I don't know, because I think seeing like the weird prosthetic they would come up with for like the hammerhead eyes. I don't know. I would wear that.
That is an interesting choice. I love it. Okay, Arturo?
I don't know. I don't think I would look very good as Mara Jade. I think it would be kind of awkward. Yeah, I mean, I remember way back, probably like 25 years ago, with a Boy Scouts troop, we had like a Halloween party, and I dressed up as Luke Skywalker. And yeah, I really remember that moment. That was pretty kind of cool. So again, probably wouldn't get to dress up as a 16-year-old Skywalker right now. But hey, I think I could make a middle-aged Skywalker. I don't know, something like Dark Empire kind of a thing. work. I think that would be kind of cool. So
Dark
yeah.
Empire gear, Luke Skywalker. Very good, very good. And for people asking, why didn't I pick an Ewok? Because a 6'3" Ewok is a Wookiee, folks. It's not an Ewok. I can't be an Ewok. If I was short, I'd pick an Ewok. If I could have 2 Ewok costumes for my little girls, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But so I can't pick an Ewok.
A Doug, but
a what?
6'6", a Doug.
Yeah.
Like you have to contort your feet up. Anyway.
Oh, you could like me and Mara Jade. It's not gonna work, right?
That's right. It's not gonna work, right? It's like that guy who's on his knees as a Jawa in New Hope. You know, sorry, dude. Okay, well, once again, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really did enjoy this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Real quick, Arturo and SJ, I want you to pitch your channels. Arturo, you go first.
Okay, so yeah, thank you again for having me here. I really enjoyed this. It was great honor to sort of be on the one sort of chat line with you guys. It's awesome. So yeah, I hey, if I get the opportunity, why not? I'm running a record label. We have this kind of house band. It's called Hypernation. So you can find it. This is how you spell it, Hypernation. Find us on YouTube, on SoundCloud, and other sort of channels. And it's on Hyper Records. So yeah, Hyper Records ending with a Z. So Hyper Records, RECORDZ. Check it out. And we have other albums and other songs out there as well. So yeah, there's a lot you can pick from. Electronica, dub music, reggae music. Check it out.
That is awesome. Now, do you play any of those on any of those CDs? Do you sing on them?
I rap on some of it. I produce some of it. So yeah, some of it. For sure.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. Okay, SJ?
I write books. I was hoping to one day actually, write in the Legends timeline, but we'll see if that ever happens. But yeah, this is my latest series, if I can catch it without glare. Future's Birth. And I just put out book number 11 last week. And yeah, enjoying what I do.
What type of book series is this? Fantasy, sci-fi?
Fantasy, sci-fi stuff.
Okay.
And things, yeah. The expanded universe was honestly one of the huge impacts for me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'm just gonna do it and actually try to write my own sci-fi and fantasy stuff. And I have a website, sjsaunders.com. Not like this, but actual the letters sjsaunders.com, and all this stuff is there.
All right. Look at this. We got an author. We got a musician here. That is super awesome. I can't do either, folks. I'm not as talented as these guests here. So again, guys, thank you so much. First off, for donating to the billboard, showing your love, showing your passion for the expanded universe, and also secondly, for sharing your time with me and get to talk some EU. This is a lot of fun. So thank you again for that.
This was great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to others that donated. I think it's great that we sort of chipped in together and we made this happen. It's awesome. Good job, movement.
Absolutely. Great job for the movement overall. Well said. All right, folks, that is it for now, but don't worry too much because we're going to be doing a lot more of these as the weeks progress. So we will see you next time on a more civilized age. Have an awesome day. See ya.